Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Dan Whitfield. I am the Democratic candidate running for United States Senate here in Arkansas to unseat and replace Senator John Bozeman. And I do a weekly update Q&A every Saturday at about 6 p.m. Central, where I talk about kind of what happened in the previous week and what is going to be happening in the upcoming week. And I don't have a whole lot to talk about for this live stream, so make sure as I am giving my updates, you ask any questions that you have. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch right now. So ask any questions about policy or whatever you want, and I'll answer your questions. While you type your questions, I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about what happened here in Arkansas this last week. And I also am going to take a little bit of time this evening to go through the Arkansas state legislative calendar, so that we can kind of look at some of the bills that they looked at, some of the bills that they passed. And again, I can get you a little more familiar with how that website works so that you can use this tool to your advantage to understand how your representatives are actually representing you. And then I will also talk very briefly about the update for my ballot access case from 2020, my last campaign. So don't be confused. We have ballot access for 2022, but this is a prior court hearing case so that we can set precedent for future independents who want to run in our state, especially against many of these unopposed Republicans where Democrats just aren't quite up to the task, either financially or viably. And yeah, I see Biker Veteran. You're already talking about the Benton County gun shoot. I can talk about that briefly, but I won't get too far into it. Let me pull up a note here. Benton County shoot. And I'll pull that up and I'll talk about it briefly because it is important. Let's see here. It's loading. It's loading. All right, here we go. I'll just make sure. There we go. Okay, I'll talk about that for a little bit, maybe 5 minutes here after I get through everything else, because it is important to see how our basically how our law enforcement has been wasting taxpayer money for their own political party fundraisers and things like that. And it is hometown corruption. It definitely is. All right, so let's go through some of this ethics violation. It is an ethics violation, but the problem is when we look at these ethics violations, the issue that we're facing is the person who has to hold this corruption accountable is going to be our Attorney General Leslie Rutledge, who is unethical in herself. So when she decides to not hold them accountable, then we have to look at who holds her accountable. And then it's the Arkansas Ethics Committee, which unfortunately is just as bad because they're dipping in the same pockets as the people, Leslie Rutledge, Attorney General, and then also the Sheriff's Department as well. So that's the problem that we're facing, is we have no accountability right now. But we'll get into that in just a little bit. Let me pull this back up. All right. So this last week, a few different important things happened. So SB 6, it actually passed through our Senate, which is the anti-abortion bill. Now, what SB 6 is going to do is it's going to make it illegal for a physician to perform an abortion procedure unless the mother's life is at risk. Now, on top of that, we have all of these other silly bills going through our state legislative body right now where they're trying to make it so that if a woman needs to get an abortion, even for medical reasons, that she must talk to an anti-abortion counselor. They are making it so that this woman must look at an ultrasound of the fetus and have the doctor explain to a woman going through this emotional situation what was going to happen to the fetus while looking at it. I mean, it's just insane, the amount of mental torture that this is going to be causing women. Now, we need to also realize right now that wealthier women are still going to have abortions, whether they want, it's for an affair or anything. A wealthy person has access to getting an abortion. It's the working class and the poor that are not going to be able to get an abortion when they need it in a safe manner. It's going to cause back alley abortions. Women are going to lose their lives, and it's just despicable that we have an unconstitutional law that was just passed by our Arkansas State Senate. Unconstitutional law. That's extremely important to reverberate, because Now that our state has passed an unconstitutional law, they're going to have to defend that unconstitutional law to the Supreme Court. And unfortunately, all of the funding that they're going to use to try to preserve their unconstitutional law that they just passed is going to come directly from taxpayers. So we are the ones footing the bill for this the defense of this unconstitutional law that our state legislators, headed by Senator Jason Rapperts, have passed. Now, that's SB 6. It is going to be up to Governor Asa Hutchinson to either veto the bill or not, which I implore Governor Asa Hutchinson to read the Constitution tonight, right now. Reread the Constitution, sir, and realize that it is your public duty to veto this bill because it is, in fact, unconstitutional, as the Supreme Court in the case Roe versus Wade has very, very clearly stated. All right. Moving on from SB 6, Asa Hutchinson actually did sign the Stand Your Ground bill, making Arkansas a Stand Your Ground state. They basically removed the duty to retreat when using deadly physical force against another person. Now, by removing the duty to retreat, it is not a good idea, in my opinion, in the opinion of many experts, because number one, several weeks ago, before the Stand Your Ground law even came into place, came into fruition, yes, you did have a duty to retreat if you could do so safely. Now, that's very, very important, because if there was no safe way for you to retreat, then you didn't have the duty to retreat. You could defend yourself and your family. Now, by removing the duty to retreat, even if you have a safe way to exit the situation and not have to use deadly physical force, you no longer have to leave the situation. You could just say, oh, I felt threatened, so I drew my firearm and I shot this person and used physical deadly force because I felt threatened. It's just extremely ignorant to remove the duty to retreat, because now there's just no reason for so many people that could have safely exited a situation without having to take the life of another to actually have to do that. Now, that is a law. The governor did not veto it. Asa Hutchinson did, in fact, sign that bill into law. Let's see here. I did an interview with KRTD Kubros Roundtable a few days ago. Actually, I think it was yesterday even. And it was a really good interview because I was able to answer some really good questions. So if you haven't watched that interview, take a little bit of time and just kind of get to hear my policy stances. I know we talked a lot about endorsements and endorsements from me. And I made it very clear that no matter who is running against whom, I will not endorse a candidate unless they support progressive values, whether they be a Republican, a Democrat, a Libertarian, a Green Party, or an independent. If you want my endorsement, you have to have progressive values. It's plain and simple. I won't endorse you just because of the political party that you are affiliated with. And I would expect the same from endorsements for me as well. I just wanted to make that very clear for y'all. Let me write this on here. So if you do have some time, make sure you do check out that interview. He asked some really good questions, and was very honored to have to be on their program again for I believe it is a third time now. I went on it 2 times for my last campaign in 2020, but very good questions. Let's see here. He asked a really good question, which was, why are you running against Senator John Boozman? Now, a lot of people don't know who Senator John Boozman is. And I think it's actually very comical that a United States Senator here in Arkansas is fairly unknown. If you just do a Google search on the popularity, senator by popularity, or popularity of senators, a search like that, you'll come across a few different research papers that have been written about how popular senators are, which Bernie Sanders is, again, the most popular senator in the United States. Now, what I found very interesting was Senator John Boozman. He's not the most popular, he's not the least popular, but what he does have is the highest margin of don't know. I don't know. How can you not know whether your senator is doing a good or bad job? Because they're not doing their job good enough to make waves, to make sure that the legislation that they're proposing, that they're sponsoring, the bills they're co-sponsoring, the way that they're voting should be impactful to their constituents. We should see that our representative is submitting bills that will better our lives. And when we see a bill that has been submitted to the United States Senate that has been passed that impacts our lives in a positive way, you're obviously going to have a popular feeling towards your representative, and vice versa with unpopularity. Well, he's not very known. Senator John Boozman is really good at doing one thing. He's really good at flying under the radar. And just because he can fly under the radar and you don't really know who he is, you have to still be worrisome about these people. And the best way to figure out whether or not you approve or disapprove of the way that they're representing you would be to go to like votesmart.org, enter the name Senator John Boozman, and see how he's been voting, to see if you agree with the way that he's been voting. And I wanted to point out that my opponent, Senator John Boozman, between 2018 and 2020, has actually voted 99% of the time in agreement with Senator Mitch McConnell. He's voted 99% of the time in agreement with Senator Tom Cotton. We have 98% of the time in agreement with Lindsey Graham, 98% with Chuck Grassley, 97% of the time he agrees with Kelly Loeffler, the insurrectionist and the lady who likes to keep the KKK close. Let's see, Marco Rubio, 97%, Mitt Romney, 95%, Senator Ted Cruz, who actually just decided to leave his constituents, I'd say in the wind, but in the freezing cold, took a vacation off to Cancun, got huge negative publicity over it, had to come back to his home state of Texas, blamed it on his kids, handed out a few cases of water for a PR stunt, and then took off to Florida. 95% of the time he voted along the lines with that guy. And Senator Josh Hawley up in Missouri, the guy who was so very clear about how he would not certify the vote and basically helped incite the January 6th insurrection, 95% of the time he voted alongside with Josh Hawley as well. So just because you don't know exactly who Senator John Boozman is does not make him any less dangerous legislatively than any of these other very unpopular United States senators. So that's why I'm running against Senator John Boozman, because I really want to start voting in ways that are going to help and benefit the ways, our Kansan families' lives. Senator John Boozman just voted against the $15 minimum wage increase. And it's very interesting to me because when you represent the second poorest state in the country, you shouldn't be voting against the minimum wage, especially while you have been voting to increase your own wages several times over the last 16 years. We need to increase the minimum wage. And some of the blowback that I get for minimum wage is, well, if we raise the minimum wage, then the prices of things are going to go up, like McDonald's. Well, yes, a little bit, but there is a contrary to that. So Australia's minimum wage is $19.84 per hour. The price of a cheesy beef burger, their quarter pounder, is $12.90 for a meal. It is a little more expensive, $12.90. Now, here in the United States of America, the minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. Almost 1/3 of the minimum wage of Australia, yet we still pay around $10.80 for the same exact meal. So it is about $2 more for the meal, but what we're not taking into account is the fact that these giant corporations like McDonald's and Walmart, their employees are so underpaid that even while working full-time, they still qualify for government assistance and welfare, for SNAP, Medicaid, WIC, and things like that. Now, the government assistance that these large corporations' employees account for can be upwards of, I think for McDonald's alone was like $1.6 billion a year. Walmart alone, I believe in 2018, was $6.5 billion in government subsidies that taxpayers are subsidizing to Walmart employees who work full time but still qualify for government assistance because they don't make enough money not to qualify. So yes, the price of a burger may go up $2, but in the long run, we will save so much money on taxes paying for the welfare of these same employees that I would absolutely pay $2 more now not to have to pay an extra $500 down the road towards their subsidies or towards their welfare. So we do need to think about issues like that, deeper issues. Just like when we talk about the climate and the Paris Agreement, some people will be like, "Well, why do we need to be in the Paris Agreement when we're not even the biggest polluter on the planet, but we have to pay the most money towards the agreement?" Well, again, you're not taking into account the entire situation. Yes, China is a big polluter. Indonesia is a big polluter. But a lot of the pollution that China and Indonesia are putting into our atmosphere is because they are making products to sell to American consumers. So, yes, the products aren't being created or made here in America. So the pollution isn't taking part here in America, but we are basically, we're paying these other countries to make it for us and then they ship it here. We import it. So it is still our responsibility to make sure that we are taking care of the planet in those ways as well. Um, just kind of how things like that work together. You got to think about the bigger picture in the macro sense, because micro doesn't always make sense. And you'll see that a lot of GOP politicians will look at the micro of the problem and then they will spread their rhetoric for that, but the macro of the issue is what they really need to be talking about. So let's see here. So yeah, that's why I'm running against Senator John Bozeman. He voted against the $15 minimum wage increase. He also voted against the COVID relief bill that was finally passed by the United States Senate by a vote of 50 to 49. So down ballot races are just as important as presidential races, because if we didn't win those 2 seats in Georgia, we would have not got this COVID relief package. Now, I understand it's not the $2,000 we were promised. It's only $1,400. They lowered the income cap so that I think it's only $60,000 now. So if you make more than 60,000, you're not getting the full amount. And it's going to be until, I believe, tax season until you can actually get the $1,400. So it's not that $2,000 immediate relief survival check that we were promised, but it's better than nothing. I know some people will be like, well, 600 plus 1,400 equals 2,000. But what those individuals forget is that the actual $600 relief package was by the last administration. It wasn't by Biden's administration. When Biden ran for office, Warsaw or Ossoff and Warnock as well, they campaigned on a $2,000 survival check. So that's what we expected. It's not what we got, but again, $1,400 is better than nothing. I really think that these $1,400 checks should be immediate. They should already have those checks in the mail today. Now that the Senate passed it, Biden should be in his office right now, signing the law, getting those checks in the mail right now. I'm not sure if that's going to happen. I'm pretty sure it's not going to happen, but that's what I think should happen. And I also think that, again, 1,400 isn't enough. 1,400 plus 600 isn't enough. What we truly need is a $2,000 revolving monthly stimulus check for every person in America until the pandemic has completely subsided. And the reason I believe this is because we live in the wealthiest nation in the history of the world, but we are not taking care of American citizens the way that other countries are somehow able to take care of their citizens, such as Canada. In Canada, they've been giving out stimulus checks since the beginning of the pandemic. Canadian citizens have received about $66 per day from their government to help them get by during this pandemic, while Americans, on the other hand, have only gotten about $6 per day, which was, 1/10 of the amount as Canadians have gotten from our government. So we really need to rethink the way that we are helping people during this pandemic, because the unemployment numbers are still really high. The amount of people out of work is just mind-boggling, and people are still losing everything. They're losing their homes, their livelihoods, their cars. We can't have this in our first world United States of American country. I believe New Zealand was actually giving their citizens, I was told $595 a week for the first 8 weeks during the pandemic. But during the first 8 weeks of their pandemic, they locked their country down. Everyone was wearing masks. People were staying home, and they were actually able to beat COVID-19 in 2 months. So yes, they did give $600 a week, which is about, $2,400 a month for 2 months. But since they took it seriously, that's all they had to do. Their economy is already flourishing again, which is what we should have done in the first place, in my opinion, and the opinion of so many experts. So let's see here. So we got the COVID bill passed. The minimum wage was actually, it didn't pass. We had 8 Democrats vote against the minimum wage increase. 8 Democrats voted against increasing the minimum wage. That doesn't make sense to me. Why would a Democrat vote against raising the wages of their constituents? It doesn't make sense until you start to look at the finances of those 8 Democrats. And when you take those 8 Democrats and combine their net worth, it's nearly $50 million. These 8 Democrats are wealthy and they don't understand. They're so out of touch with what it's like to be a working class American. They don't understand the importance of an increasing minimum wage to meet the increasing cost of living. So, oh, I've got some comments coming in. I'll read all y'all's comments and answer your questions. Just keep asking as we go through. And I am sorry, Purple Blood. I do my live stream at 6 o'clock. I guess it is kind of during dinner time. And as the days progress and we hit our spring forward time change here soon, hopefully a dinner time can change a little bit maybe for y'all since it'll be lighter later. All right. So that's kind of all I really had to talk about as far as that goes. I did see today Sarah Huckabee Sanders has endorsed Senator John Boozman for the United States Senate in 2022, and she has stated that she will be teaming up with Senator John Boozman and campaigning around our state. So we have the Republican Party, the GOP, specifically right now, teaming up, organizing, networking, and campaigning together in our state. Oh my gosh, my hair is so long. I need a haircut real bad. It's getting all wavy and stuff. Need my vaccine. Oh my gosh. Anyways, they are organizing. We have to begin organizing if we are going to begin to flip Arkansas blue in 22. We have to get organized. Now, if you're running for office as a Democrat, reach out to me. Russ for governor, he's trying to create this network as well. We need to be connecting with each other, networking, helping share our resources. We need to be making sure that our names are known. We need to start, as soon as we get the vaccines out there, start going to events together, campaigning together, working together. Oh, I'm in this district, and in my district, in my county, we're having this event on this day. Make sure you come. And we need to be going to these events as groups and showing our unity and our strength in our party, because the Republicans are already doing this. And if we don't do the same, we're not going to have 22 Democrats to 78 Republicans. We're going to end up with 90 Republicans to 10 Democrats. It's going to happen. So we've got to make sure we are organizing if we're going to start taking our state back. Let's see here. Oh, thanks, Biker. Honestly, I just never wanted to be in politics, so I'm not going to run for a local office. I'm just trying to get change at the level where I think we need the right people commanding the lead for this change, which for me is going to be at a federal level in the United States Senate. That way I can spearhead policies that will help improve the lives of Arkansans, such as renters' rights, Medicare for all, federal decriminalizing cannabis and nationally expunging cannabis convictions, ending privatized prisons, things that are really going to help not only Arkansans, but United States citizens and Americans all across our country. Let's see here. All right, so yeah, organizing. We've got to get organized, guys. We have to do it. And Rutledge Annie is ridiculous. Oh my gosh. Honestly, she's probably not having a very good time after Sarah Sanders just came in and raised $1 million real quick and got Donald Trump's endorsement. And yes, Boozman's optics are all about being unseen. He wants to fly under the radar, but we're not going to allow him to fly under the radar. We're going to keep an eye on how he's voting on legislation. We're going to make sure Arkansans know how he's been voting, whether it's been helping Arkansan families or hurting Arkansan families. So yeah, minimum wage in Arkansas is $9.25, and it's actually going to go up to $11. So when Senator Tom Cotton and Senator John Boozman support an $11 an hour minimum wage, it's really odd, don't support raising the minimum wage even to $11 an hour. They want to keep it at $7.25. It's odd that they don't even support raising the federal minimum wage to what Arkansas, their home state's minimum wage, is. Let's see, 2000 was initially requested half a year ago, so 10K to 12 in March 2012 would just be catching up. Yeah, and hey, Jim, thank you for joining me this evening. Absolutely right. We are just catching up. The cost of living keeps going up, taxes keep going up, and wages are staying the same. They're remaining stagnant while CEO and executive payment is just ballooning, and it's not okay. All right, moving through. Okay, well, I'm through kind of all of the questions. I did attend the Democratic Socialists of America Central Arkansas chapter's meeting last Sunday, and learned some very good things on what they were doing as far as renters' rights. They hosted a protest at the state capitol on Wednesday, March 3rd. I hope it was successful. I didn't see a live stream to share, but I shared their event. And then today, we actually had an event about the SB 6 that was passed, and that was a really cool demonstration to watch online. I was looking for a good live stream to share as well, but I was unable to find one that was continuing. They just had a few short updates here and there. So thank you guys so much, everyone who was able to show up socially distanced and masked and participate safely. I do appreciate, and so many people appreciate what you're all doing, how you guys stand up for our American rights or our constitutional rights when we are unable to make it there ourselves. So thank you guys so much for doing these important things. Keep it up, and I'll do everything I can to share these events and help get them more vision on what's going on. Let's see here. Mr. Jim says Democratic candidate prospects can't wait to know the districts they might run in because the census is so badly delayed that the districts won't be settled until October. Candidates need to get their campaigns organized now. And it's a very actually important what Mr. Jim is saying. So we just had our 2020 census, and now we are working on redistricting our state of Arkansas. Now, the whole redistricting effort has been very interesting because number one, we actually had a citizen initiative that was supposed to be on the ballot in 2020 to change the way that we redistrict our state, to have a nonpartisan panel of 3 independents, 3 Republicans, and 3 Democrats to handle the redistricting of our state. Now, unfortunately, the Secretary of State, John Thurston, used his elective authority to remove this citizen signed initiative off of the ballot. Over 100,000 people signed this thing, and he pulled it off the ballot, and he stole our opportunity to vote on how we would redistrict our state. Now, rather than a nonpartisan panel redistricting our state, the GOP has 100% full control of how Arkansas will be districted for the next decade. 10 years is how long these districts are going to stay in place. Now, this effort to redistrict is led by Senator Jason Rappert, who is a far-right religious extremist who is now heading the redistricting program here in Arkansas. He is the gentleman who has submitted the bills for all of these anti-abortion pieces of legislation that are unconstitutional in our state. So he obviously doesn't understand the Constitution. He obviously doesn't care about any kind of nonpartisanship. He doesn't care about Arkansans, just his personal religious beliefs, and helping the GOP, the people who put money in his pockets, out. So we're kind of screwed here in Arkansas, unfortunately. And we have to wait until October to actually see how screwed we really are, which is just going to be a few months before people can file to run for office. So it's really tough because a lot of people don't know exactly what district that they will be in to know whether they can run or not and file until October, which is going to be another 7 months. So if you're considering running for office, it doesn't really matter what district you're in. Just do what you can to start getting a campaign going, form an exploratory committee, and do everything you can to be prepared no matter what district you may end up in running for office, because we cannot afford to allow 66 Republicans to run unopposed ever again. All right. Thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Jim. And hey, Rick, how are you doing? Thank you so much for joining us this evening. All right, so I've gone through kind of all these updates. I don't have any upcoming Democratic County Party meetings for the week of March 7th through 13th. So if you're in a Democratic County Party and you have a virtual meeting coming up this week, please message me, reach out, let me know that y'all are having a meeting, and then I can join. And I don't need to speak or anything like that. I just want to listen in, hear what your local issues are so that I can bring your local issues to the bigger table. All right. So let's see. The next thing I want to talk about. Wow, we're already 30 minutes in. Oh my gosh. Let me go ahead and turn on my window share here. Yeah, move my chair over this way just a little bit. All right. So this is arleg.state.ar.us. If you just Google Arkansas State Legislature, you should actually be brought to this page. It'll be like the #1 hit. But this is a great website. It has so much information. It's such a great tool that we need to be taking advantage of as Arkansan citizens to make sure we know how our representatives are voting for us. And you can even go, let's see here. If I click here up top, you can click legislators, list all. It'll show you all of the different legislators. So if we click Bob Ballinger on here, it'll show you a picture of him, his phone number, his government issued email address, what district he's in, his church affiliation, his occupation, all these different things. It will also show you the bills that he has sponsored. So it's to amend the law concerning the office of public guardian for adults, and to amend the law concerning all duties of the public guardian for adults. Concerning the defense of a person with the use of physical force or deadly physical force. He is the gentleman who sponsored the Stand Your Ground law. So it shows all of the different bills. Let's see here. To require a public school district to provide to parents and legal guardians prior written notification of and an opportunity to inspect the materials related to sex education, sexual orientation, and gender identity. But all these different things in here, you can see what bills your legislators are sponsoring. Now, you can also do a district finder. You can, click a different person. You can zoom in on where you live. Let's see here. So let's click off of there. I'm going to go ahead. Oh, is there a way to unselect? I don't know. Guess not. Filter by name. Here's your representatives. What if I click here? No. All right. Well, you can search your representatives and all of that good stuff here. So make sure you do check out who is representing you if you do not currently know. You can see all of the different committees, Senate committees, the Agricultural, Forestry, and Economic Development, Children, Youth Committee, Education Committee, Insurance and Commerce. You can see all of these different committees on here. Here we go. Senate Ethics Committee. Let's see who's in our Senate Ethics Committee. Nobody. That makes sense because we have a lot of unethical people running our state. Let's see. Roster. Wow, no members found for this committee. Committee information. Subcommittees. Okay. This one just isn't updated right now. All right, but you can see all of the different committees on here, which is, again, a very useful tool. All right, but let's go back to here. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, this is basically this upcoming week's agenda, what they're going to be doing. But let's go to this month, and you can actually refine your search. We can do February 28th through, let's go back up to March here, through Friday the 5th. And you can actually filter this by when they were in session. Now, this is, again, an amazing tool. So let's see here. Senate convenes. You can actually click video on here. I don't know if it'll give you guys audio on this.
I won't read the whole resolution, but I want to read just a few highlights.
You can actually see on here. You can hear it through mine if you can't hear it through the window. But you can actually click on here and you can see.
She worked for Apple for 7 years. She writes the apps that many of you have in your pocket.
You know how our legislators are talking, how they're discussing, debating, and then what they pass, who votes to pass, and things like that. So, again, a very amazing tool. Let's see, Tuesday, March 3rd, the Joint Budget Committee, Agricultural. Public transportation, energy, house convenes, chamber. You can click bills and you can see each of the different bills that they talked about. This was at 8 a.m. here. At 1 p.m., all these different ones here. Let's see if there's anything interesting on here. I'm sure there's a lot of interesting stuff. To add an exception from nursing licensure to allow employees of city or county detention center to draw and measure glucogen, glucagon, or insulin from a person who is incarcerated or in custody. So that basically gives, a city. Let's see here. Wow. Let's see actually exactly what this is. The drawing and measuring of glucogen or insulin, or both, a trained employee of a city county detention center for the person who is currently incarcerated or otherwise in custody of the city or county detention center and has a confirmed diagnosis of diabetes. The drawing measurable shall be based on the order of a treating licensed medical professional with prescribing privileges. So basically, if you have diabetes, they can draw your blood whether you want them to or not. But there's just so many different things. Let's see, M passage, that you can see what we have been voting on this last week. Let's see, revenue tax, state agencies, judiciary committee. I'm trying to see where they passed SB 6. I would love to take a second to watch a couple minutes of their debate and vote on it. Nothing here. All right, and then Thursday. All right, so this is Thursday, SB 191. To amend the law concerning public employees to prohibit collective bargaining. That's interesting. By Bob Ballinger. Wow, if it's by Bob Ballinger, it's probably not pretty good. But I don't want to take too much of your time. I'll have to just read through all of this on my own. SB 62. To establish the Oil and Gas Owners Lien Act of 2021. That's kind of interesting. Oh, this is a long one. Who was it submitted by? Go up to the top. Representative S. Smith. I wonder if S. Smith has taken any money from the gas and oil industry. See, this is how you figure out how corrupt your representatives are. Look at what they're submitting and then see who they're taking money from. But all right, well, I've kind of really gone through and showed you the bones to how this works, the foundation here. So make sure you do check it out. And let's see, budget hearing information, Game and Fish Commission. So you can actually see, wow, what their budgets are, how much they're spending, where they're spending it at, organizational charts, all these different things. Just such a great tool. All right, so make sure you do check that out. It's very beneficial. So let's see. The next thing that I wanted to talk about here, really, really briefly, because my live stream doesn't really have anything to do with my 2020 court hearing case or ballot access court hearing. So I don't want to spend too much time talking about it, but I do want to give you guys a quick update. My lawyer did get our renewed brief filed and explained very clearly and concisely why our case is not moot and how we have the constitutional precedent to have our case heard with oral arguments. Now, let's see here. I'll very, very briefly go over this because it is 15 pages long, and I'm not going to bore y'all. So let's see. The plaintiff appellant Dan Whitfield, herein sometimes referred to as Plaintiff Whitfield, after filing a timely notice of appeal on June 26, 2020, filed with this court on July 8, 2020, a motion for expedited appeal and for order granting injunction, which was denied by this court on July 23rd, 2020. Plaintiff Whitfield's opening brief had been filed with this court on July 22nd, 2020, with a renewed motion for an expedited appeal being filed with this court on July 28th, 2020, which was denied by this court on July 30th, 2020. The brief of defendant appellee John Thurston in his official capacity as the Secretary of State for the state of Arkansas, herein sometimes referred to as Defendant Secretary Thurston, was filed with this court on August 24th, 2020. Interesting, August 24th, 2020 at 7 p.m., so it actually wasn't even put through until August 27, 2020, which was after they had already drawn the names for the ballot order. So thereafter, on August 25th, 2020, Defendant Secretary of State Thurston filed a letter pursuant to Fed RIP 28J with the court, to which Plaintiff Whitfield filed a response letter on. Plaintiff Whitfield filed his reply brief on September 10th and now submits his supplemental brief pursuant to this court's order requiring supplemental briefing on the question of whether the appeal is now moot, considering that the 2020 election is over and that the appellant Whitfield does not appear to be running as an independent candidate in the 2022 election. So, Plaintiff Whitfield is entitled to injunctive and declaratory relief as the future enforcement of the challenged ballot access laws because the issues in this case are capable of repetition yet evading review. The Eighth Circuit Court has made it clear that a voter has the right to challenge ballot access laws even if the voter is ineligible and cannot be a candidate. So, as a voter is how this case is. Because the voter has a right to cast his vote efficient or effectively and have the ability to challenge laws which restrict his ability to vote for the candidate of his choice or dilute the effect of his vote if his chosen candidate were not fairly presented to the voting public. And then he states another case. While denial of preliminary injunction below and this court's denial of two motions for expedited appeal is problematic for Plaintiff Whitfield as far as appearing on the Arkansas ballot as an independent candidate for U.S. Senator in the now past 2020 general election, declaratory relief as to the constitutionality of the laws in question, as well as permanent injunctive relief as to the enforcement of the ballot access laws at issue as to the future elections is certainly something that can be addressed by this court. After all, the placement of Plaintiff Whitfield's name on the 2020 general election ballot was not only the relief requested below, the laws in question are in the constitutionality challenges thereto are capable of repetition yet evading review. And then he lists some more cases and then cites one of these cases. The capable of repetition yet evading review doctrine in the context of election cases is approximate where there are, as applied, challenges as well as in the more typical case involving only facial attacks. The construction of the statute and an understanding of its operation and possibly constitutional limits on its application will have the effect of simplifying future challenges, thus increasing the likelihood that timely filed cases can be adjudicated before an election is held. So, and I'm not going to read too much more. I think I'm reading fairly well for just reading loud like this. Let's see here. What do I do for work? Mr. Biker asked 6 minutes ago. Sorry it took so long to answer your question, sir. I work at JB Hunt as an information services intern. I specialize in automation. I just passed my 3-year anniversary last month. And I'm currently seeking my bachelor's degree in information systems, which I should have finished before the election. Continuing. So, as the district court noted below, the standard for granting a permanent injunction is essentially the same for a preliminary injunction, except that to obtain a permanent injunction, the movement must obtain success on the merits. Let's see here. The significant issue in this appeal is as to the limitation as to non-presidential independent candidates and their supporters caused by a fixed non-rolling 90-day petitioning period from February 1st through April 30th, which results in making non-presidential independent candidates and their supporters who are petitioning to being particularly susceptible and vulnerable to the effects of the COVID-19 or a future pandemic and or bad weather because of the fixed non-rolling time limitation of 90 days, in contrast to the effects that they would have to deal with if they had a longer petitioning period, such as the unlimited time period allowed for presidential candidates and their supporters in Arkansas to gather a mere 1,000 petition signatures that are not even due until August 1st of the election year. Which is important because an independent candidate has a fixed 90-day window to collect 10,000 verified signatures, where other third parties such as the Libertarian Party or Green Party have a open 90-day period. So that's why the Libertarian Party was able to collect their signatures to get ballot access for the 2020 election back in 2019, the summer of 2019, when everybody's out and about and moving around, why they were able to pay a petitioning company $55,000 to get their ballot access. I didn't have that opportunity because as an independent in a fixed period, we even tried to pay a petitioner to get some signatures for us, and they actually were unable to get signatures for us because of the pandemic, and which that petitioning company actually still owes my wife $900. Anyways, continuing on. All right. In order for a court to dismiss a claim as moot, the defendant must demonstrate that it is absolutely clear that the allegedly wrongful behavior could not reasonably be expected to reoccur. The party claiming mootness bears the formidable burden of establishing that as the result of changed circumstances, the challenged law, policy, or practice cannot be reasonably to expect to reoccur. See, friends. All right. And there's a very important line in here I'm trying to get to, and then I'll stop reading and boring y'all. But it seems like we still have a few people. Plaintiff Whitfield's case is now Plaintiff Whitfield's case is not now moot based on the election being over and him not yet having made a decision about the particulars of a future candidacy at this early date. On this point, see the highly pertinent 8th Circuit's decision, as well as paragraphs 4 and 7 of the complaint filed in the district court below. The pertinent portion of paragraph 4 of plaintiff's complaint makes clear that Plaintiff Whitfield supports, and this is directly out of our original court hearing, petition drives to have independent candidates recognized for ballot access in the state of Arkansas and the right to cast his votes effectively for independent candidates in Arkansas in the 2020 general election and future Arkansas elections. Paragraph 7 of the plaintiff's complaint states in several places that the ballot access laws challenged are as applied to the plaintiffs for 2020 Arkansas general election and for all subsequent general elections in the state of Arkansas, as well as seeking an injunction prohibiting the enforcement of the ballot access laws in question, both temporarily and permanent, as for subsequent Arkansas general elections. And then I believe this is also from my case here. To the extent that said statutes set an unconstitutional, early, unnecessary, and vague deadline of May 1st, 2020, coupled with an unnecessary limited 90-day petitioning period during election years for the independent candidates, along with a loss and curtailment of the overwhelming majority of petitioning time for the aforesaid 90-day petitioning period in 2020 because of the advent of the coronavirus. Particularly, the aforesaid 90-day petitioning period is specifically impacted this year and will be susceptible to being impacted in future election years by dangerous and deadly diseases such as COVID-19 and or severe weather conditions. This court's consideration of the mootness issue should take into account that it is well established that election law cases involving ballot access are different in their controversy, and issues raised therein are capable of repetition yet evading review, and therefore an exception to the usual mootness rule. Even though the 2020 election is over in Arkansas, the case is not moot because it presents an issue which is capable of repetition yet evading review. Election issues are among the most frequently saved from mootness, the time capable of repetition yet evading review, exception to the mootness doctrine. Okay, I think this is the important part. So Van Bergen originally, this is from another case in the Van Bergen case. Van Bergen originally brought his claim to the district court prior to the gubernatorial primary in which he intended to run. But despite expedited review in the district court, this appeal could not be brought until after the election. This issue of whether Minnesota's limitations of the use of ADADs in an election campaign context passes constitutional muster will never be fully litigated if at each election the case becomes moot before the appeal can be completed, which is extremely important. We have all of these ballot access cases that come forth year after year after year, but they get pushed until after the election and then they're just ruled moot and nothing changes. We still have the same problems repeating time and time again. So it's very important that these cases are not ruled moot. That way they can be heard for future elections. All right. And that's all I'm really going to bother y'all with. If you go to danforarkansas.com, click on the ballot access tab. I believe this is on the 2 of 2 tab. You'll see it right at top. You can download it, view it from the website and so on, but it's all in here. So I just wanted to take a little bit of your time to talk about that. And let's see here. All right. I've only got a few people left because a lot of people hopped off while I was reading through that. We're about 50 minutes into the live stream now. I don't really see any more questions on Twitter. And yeah, Mr. Jim, Ballinger is bad for Arkansas. All right. So someone had wanted me to talk briefly about what's going on in Benton County, where our sheriff's department actually held a fundraising event for a political PAC, and they used public ammunition, public firearms, a bunch of different public resources to host this shooting fundraiser. Let's see. I'm not a big fan of the source of this, so I'm not 100% sure how accurate it is, but it seems to be accurate enough with not much opinion, but more facts, which is a good change for this publisher. But I mean, some of the important things in here are we have on duty and off duty law enforcement officers here. This gentleman was actually on duty while he went to this gig. Let's see here. There's different police officers who were on duty here during this event. They tried to hide that this event had ever happened, but through a Freedom of Information Act, someone was able to request the different information. They found that there was a 911 call hearing gunshots to the west of the address near Pinnacle over there, rapid gunfire and so on. You can see that, these different people, Billy Ray Collins, Matthew Douglas Klein, Wasing Young, let's see, Vince Edward, Amat Slinger. These guys were all at that event, a political event, while on duty, getting paid by us. This was the ammunition log right here. So we know, man, what was the date that they said this was? So I think 8/27. So you can see they took, what is that number right there? Oh my gosh, it's so small. And this is actually really interesting too, because it's a handwritten ammunition log. It doesn't state, I think he wrote in here somewhere, it doesn't state what caliber of ammunition. They could have handwritten this at any time. Honestly, some of this handwriting looks like the same. It's interesting stuff, but I mean, 6,000 rounds, 2,000 rounds, 250, 800, 150, 1,000, 6,000. So when asked for a log of checked out weapons, they said there were no weapons logged to check out, kind of thing. And this was Washington County, showing that they have very detailed weapon checkout logs. All right, but so on. So this is just something that needs to be investigated. It happened in Benton County from the Benton County Sheriff's Office. The only problem is the person who would investigate an issue like this would be the Attorney General, who's dipping into the same pockets, or even could be taking money from this specific PAC and fundraising event. And then since she wouldn't be investigating the event, it would challenge her ethics. But the only people that she would answer to would be the Arkansas Ethics Committee, who unfortunately is also dipping into the same pockets, probably taking money from the same people. So there's just no ethical consequences for anybody in the GOP in the state of Arkansas, which is very unfortunate. That's just how corrupt our state is right now, because our state has been purchased by the GOP and its special interests that it represents. But all right, I can close that down. I'm done with all of that, with all my sharing. We talked about different bills that were passed this last week. I showed you a little bit about the AR state legislative website. Make sure you do check out that tool. It's so amazing. It's just, it really actually kind of sucks. It's stressful to know what's going on behind closed doors that our state legislators are doing that aren't really talked about in a public manner. But I mean, knowledge is power. We have to know how these people are voting, what they're voting on, if we are to start taking our state back from these, bought and paid for politicians and the special interests that purchase them. So let me see. Is the post about Michael John Gray running for governor just BS, or do we know? I'm really not sure, Mr. Jim. I don't know if he's running for governor, but I really don't see the head of the Democratic Party of Arkansas winning a seat against a GOP candidate right now. I mean, I really don't want to see Rutledge or Sarah Huckabee Sanders win. I just don't think he has what it takes, unfortunately. But we'll still wait to see if we have a good, strong candidate come in. I know Russ for governor has really great progressive values. I'm hoping he can take it. I know Hayden she has really awesome values as well. I have no idea what's going to happen. It's going to be just an insane gubernatorial race here in Arkansas in 2022. So I'm going to do what I can to just network and organize as many people as possible, and then focus on my race, because we have to make sure we maintain the Senate majority, and we have to make sure we do get Senator John Bozeman out, since Senator Tom Cotton was so effectively able to steal the election in 2020. All right. So I'm kind of through all this stuff. Are there any other questions before I go ahead and end my live stream? Let's see. Ted Cruz. Hi, Ted. Sorry for your name and the stain that it got from that senator in Texas. Moving right along. All right, cool beans. Well, hey, thank you guys so much for joining me. We're just about an hour in. And again, I do a live stream every Saturday night at about 6 p.m. Central. So I'll answer any of y'all's questions then. And then also, if you have another question, you can always send me a message on Facebook, Twitter, on whatever social media platform. You can give me a call, send me a text message, and email. I answer all my own social media and emails and phone calls. So make sure you reach out if you have any questions. I'll answer them. Going along, and yeah, I don't see anything else. Awesome. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and start getting dinner ready. Like someone had said, it is kind of dinner time when I'm doing my live streams, unfortunately. So thank you guys so much for taking time out of your evening to join me, listen to what I had to say. I can't wait to see y'all next Saturday. My court hearing is going to be on March 18th. So we'll have one more update before my court hearing, which is going to be in 2 weeks. So I can't wait to see how that goes. I hope we set some precedent for independent candidates here in Arkansas, because we truly need to make sure we ease the ballot access restrictions. That way we don't have 66 Republicans running unopposed for our different state seats every single year, time after time again. We need to make sure that if a candidate has a viable opponent, that opponent has the opportunity to challenge them on the ballot. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I appreciate your support and taking the time again out of your evening. You guys are just the best. I love y'all. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening, a safe weekend. May God bless y'all. May God bless America, and may God bless Arkansas.